Hello, Motorsport World fans, and welcome to this special interview that we've got lined up for you in the festive period just before Christmas. Can't believe it's already Christmas 2023. Just feels like the other day we were Christmas shopping, and here we're doing it again. Kids are 1 year older, brighter, no more than us, and 2023 is just shot past. So I'm very excited to be chatting to a very special guest, someone that had a really good 2023. Lots of ups and downs. There's no doubt about it. But certainly establishing himself as a top contender and certainly a big name in South African motorsport, and just continuing this great gravy train of young South African superstars that we've got racing all around the world. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you like and share this post, please. If you're not watching it live and you're watching it on our YouTube channel afterwards, or the Facebook page afterwards, just hit that like button in Facebook, and in YouTube, like and subscribe. Please make sure you do that. And I must apologize for being an hour late. I forget that we are 2 hours behind now in the UK. So when I set it for 7 p.m. UK, thinking that would be 8 p.m. SA, it was supposed to be 6 p.m. UK, and then vice versa. So anyway, one day I'll get used to this life in the UK and all the different times and everything. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our special guest tonight to keep us entertained for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. Please ask whatever questions you might have for this young man. I'm sure there's plenty of questions out there. So I'll be leading it, directing it as normal. But if you have a question, just throw it in the comment section, and we'll try and lay it onto him and get a good answer, which I'm pretty sure we will. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, young Ruche Moodley, all the way from PE. Ruche, how are you doing?
Hey, Uncle Rob, thanks for having me, and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolute pleasure, my man. I think this was something we needed to do. A nice big catch up, because especially a lot of people wanting to know more about Ruche Moodley after the season that you had. But before we get into that, the courteous thing, the first kind of thing you do as a conversation starter is talk about the weather. So you're in South Africa. How's the weather there?
Yeah, it's much hotter than Europe is now. It's nice to be in summer most of the year, because they're in summer in Europe and we come back to South Africa. So I'm glad that we're here for the summer and not in Spain in the cold.
Well, I can tell you, and I need you to explain to me in the best way possible what the sun actually feels like, because I haven't seen or felt sunshine in a very long time here in the UK. So listen, soak up that sun while you can, because like you said, in Europe here it's so inconsistent, especially in the UK. It's just a shame. I take my kids to school in the morning at about 8:30 in the pitch black. I fetch them at 3:30 in the pitch black, and I take them in raincoats, and I fetch them in. It's just a disaster. So soak up that South African sunshine, please, please, please. So here we go. We've got a couple of comments coming in already. Ian Jefferson says hello. Justin DP, Renee Solomon, hi guys from Winkelspruit. I hope I said that right. I'm pretty sure I said that right. When you see Spruit, you got to say Spruit. Spruit. Gail Joyce, hi Rob, hello Ruche, Tennille DeAndre, and Daryl Holmes. Everyone welcoming our SA superstar from PE. So Ruche, let's just explain quickly to people that don't know where you raced this year. It's the European Junior Series. Not a lot of people know what that is. So just give us a brief explanation of that championship and how it went this year for you.
Yeah, so this year I raced in the European Talent Cup and the Red Bull Rookies Cup. In the European Talent Cup, I'm with the Fine Network Mere Racing team, and it's my second year with them. So in the European Talent Cup, we all on, it's the 2012 Moto3 Honda bikes, so it's all of them are the same and all of them are stock. So in both championships, we are all on similar machinery, so it makes the racing quite close and quite fair.
And what's the requirements to get into that kind of championship? I get asked quite a lot. I'm sure your dad and you do get asked quite a lot from a lot of youngsters coming from South Africa, how to break into that championship. Is it a case of, what's the age kind of group? Is it easy to get in there? Obviously, there's always money involved with these kind of things, but are there a lot of teams available?
Yeah, for the European Talent Cup, there's so many riders. There's about 56 riders that enter the season, and it's you don't get selected, so it's more like you find a team or have to buy a ride to get into that championship. It's not like the Rookies Cup that's sponsored and you have to get selected for. But so only 30 people are allowed to race the race, but 56 people, 56 riders come to the race weekend, and we get split into two groups, about like 28 and 29 riders.
Oh, it's going all funny. You see, this is what happens in PE. See, when you spend all your money on going racing, you don't pay the internet bill. I'm sure we'll get Ruche back any second
Hello?
now. There he is. Can you hear us? No, he's gone again.
Hello?
Can you? There he is. We got you back,
Yeah.
Ruche. Tell your dad to stop spending his money on racing and spend it on the internet bill.
Yeah. So where did I cut off?
So you were telling us. Oh gosh, no, I've lost track. Well, you were telling us the age groups first of all, and
Yeah.
how many riders you race against, and the
Okay.
teams available.
Yeah. So in the European Talent Cup, it's from 14 to 18 years old, and there's about 56 riders that come to every race weekend. And during practice and qualifying, they split us into two groups. So we have 28 in each group, and during qualifying, only the top 14 go directly to the race, and the rest have to go through the last chance race. And the top two in the last chance race go into the main race. That makes 30 riders on the main grid for the main race.
And how hard was it? Obviously it's a big challenge being taken from South Africa, short circuit racing, where you're racing 85cc motards and very old school beaten up Honda CBR 150s. You're thrown into this championship with 50 riders, mostly European, who know the tracks, know the crew chiefs. They all speak to each other. They speak the language. You rock up, young kid from PE, sit there. Your crew chief, you've never met the guy before. I'm sure there's a language barrier kind of exercise that goes on there. You don't know the tracks, first time riding the bikes, the tires and everything. You know, you've been there a couple of years now, but tell us about that first season. Go back to that first season and making that step into it. I mean, there must have been days where you sat there thinking, geez, what am I actually doing here? Because there must have been really tough days.
Yeah, well, when I first went there, it was a big eye opener with the level. Like coming from South Africa, normally in the front we have racing like three, three or four guys fighting for the front positions. But when I went to my first year in Moto 4 in the Spanish Championship, there's like 30 guys on the grid and everyone's within 2 seconds. And the front group is like maybe 15 riders, or anyone can win. So you have to learn the racecraft, the track, the bike, the speed, everything's different.
And what's the big difference between that championship? You obviously made your way into the Red Bull Rookies Cup, where you went through the qualifier, different machinery, different tires. It's a different mindset in many ways. How big of a difference is it between those two championships, or are there similarities? And do you find yourself racing against a lot of the same guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities because all the top guys in the European Talent Cup race in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. So we're racing against the same people, just on different bikes. But the biggest difference between the rookies and the European Talent Cup is the bike's completely different, and the tires. So we use Bridgestones in the European Talent Cup, which has a lot more grip, and in the Rookies Cup we use Dunlop, which is quite a lot different. But the tracks and the riders are the same, so the levels both really high. So we're pushing each other every race weekend to a higher level.
And how have you adjusted now? I see you've actually, the times that I've seen you at some of the MotoGP races this year, it seems like you've really fit into that Red Bull Rookies paddock, and I'm sure the European Championship, with making a lot of friends and making a lot of connections. Have you found yourself comfortable there now? Do you feel like, right, you're one of the boys now, you're more comfortable, and you can start, well, you certainly showcased your talent a lot more this year.
Yeah, well, most of the people that I'm training with, not even on the race weekends, sometimes just in training, or they all go to the same tracks because most people are based in Spain. For the training is really good there, so you get to make some friends, and well, not friends on the track, but at least off the track, you can be a little bit. You can talk to them, but most of the guys I'm racing in the Rookies Cup now were in Moto4 about 3 years ago, so I've known them for quite a while.
So now I see on your Instagram and Facebook, obviously we follow you closely, and if everyone watching here doesn't, make sure you go give it a like, because I love how you kind of showcase the behind the scenes stuff and what you're doing. I really love that. It really does give us a sense of the struggles and the highs and the lows and everything you go through. But I see you've done a lot of training with a certain Alonso Lopez, who's a top Moto2 rider. So now how does that come about? Do you just rock up to a go-kart track or something in Spain and go train, and all of a sudden, hey, top Moto2 rider, how are you doing? Can I ride with you? I mean, how did that relationship come about?
So I met Alonso because he's the coach for our team in the European Talent Cup,
Okay.
and after that, after last year, he was our coach. The team organized us all the riders to stay in a house together with him for the preseason. So during the preseason, I was living with Alonso in Valencia, and we were all training together, doing like cycling, gym, and at the track. There's a track that was 10 minutes away from our house, so every day we were there.
So what is the requirements then of this team? You say Alonso's the kind of team coach or whatever. It's not just a case of, right, Ruche, you've paid your money or you're in our team, whatever, rock up and ride. Do they say, right, there's a checklist you've got to go through? You've got to train X amount, you've got to eat X amount, you've got to work out X amount. I mean, what is the kind of criteria to be involved with this Fineworks team that you're with? Because it seems like a pretty good team.
Yeah, it's a really good team, and the structure that they have behind the team is really good. They don't just like focus on the race weekends. They focus on everything you do, like your training. They like it when we train all together, and at the same school. We have a school, and we practice like racecraft, like overtaking, and just the general like doing track drills and stuff. But during the preseason, most of the team, like the teammates in that team, were staying together.
Now, how's it been making this big step? I mean, I think you did it what, you were 13 or 12 years old when you made this big move overseas. You're fortunate enough that you've got your beautiful family to go with you. You've got your dad, who was, we'll talk about him a little bit later as well, a top motorcycle rider, all the advice that comes with him. But it must have made life a little bit easier that you were able to have mom, dad, sister come along for the ride, and I'm sure you've lent on them in some of those tough times. And it's always great to have a cozy shoulder to cry on when times are tough.
Yeah, so when we first started in 2019 and 2020, me and my dad were going up and down from South Africa to Spain and just going in for the race weekend. But when we realized that all of the top riders are training at that level every week, we realized that we had to move there to do it properly or to not do it at all. So now that we've moved there and I'm with my mom, my sister, and my dad, it's a lot more like normal.
And how does it work then with, this is another question that I get asked a lot, from moms and dads wanting to potentially take their kids overseas, and how does it work, and how did the Binders do it? How's Ruche doing it? Yeah, how does it work with schoolwork and stuff now? Because obviously you're a teenager now, or like you
Yeah.
said, a couple of years ago when you moved, there's still the school aspect involved for you, your sister. There's still a little bit of normality that you've got to have, or is that all just thrown
Yeah.
out the window?
No, so I've been doing homeschool online for the last 4 years now, and last year the season was so busy that I didn't do much school during the season. But as soon as I got home to South Africa, I was doing school every day, like even on the weekends. And I didn't really have a holiday last year. I just did school the whole holiday and went back straight into the next season. So my sister also does homeschool now.
It's got to be tough though to a certain level. I know from the outside we all look at you, and you're at MotoGP and you're living the life. You're racing Red Bull Rookies Cup. You're doing this, and it's all fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's not always nice smelling roses, and it's not always as comfortable and lavish as it seems. It's got to have its difficulties living that kind of life.
Sorry, I lost reception and I just rejoined now, so I missed half of your question.
So I was just saying, from the outside, we see your Instagram and we see you racing
Yeah.
in the MotoGP championship, and wow, he's so lucky. And but it's and I remember speaking to your dad at Portimao at the beginning of this season, and you were literally driving from here. Then it was a 4-hour drive there. Then it was a 5-hour drive there. Living in a van, basically. It's not
Yeah.
all as roses and
Yeah.
beautiful as people think it is. It gets tough.
Yeah, no, it's a big sacrifice from my family. Like people don't realize we on the move all the time, like driving from Spain to Portugal, back to Spain with my sister, my mom, and my dad all in the van. And my dad as my helper in the Rookies Cup, and my mom and my sister have to work and do their school. My sister has to do her school in the car. So, yeah, it's a really big sacrifice, and it's definitely not as easy as people think.
So how's it been now? Let's talk about your dad a little bit. Obviously, someone I know very well, being his teammate many moons ago. Probably one of the most underrated motorcycle races in the world for me. He was stupid fast. I hated it when he beat me, and he beat me more often than not. I did manage to beat him once or twice though. So don't ever let him fool you that Uncle Rob couldn't beat him, because Uncle Rob did beat him. Okay. But if my son goes into Red Bull Rookies and I've got to be his crew chief, I mean, I'll put his back wheel in the front, I'll put the brake pads in the fuel tank, I'll just be
Yeah.
terrible. And I've known your dad not to be the most technical guy in the world. So how's it worked out having your dad as dad and crew
Yeah.
chief at the same time?
So, yeah, nothing's gone wrong with my bike yet. So he's doing his job really
Yet.
well. And yeah, but no, it's pretty normal because my dad's like also my coach. He, like my mental coach, he always gives me the right advice before the race and always supporting me because he's been through all of this before. He knows how I feel and the pressure and all the emotions that we feel.
Yeah, it must be awesome having someone, it must also be hard for your dad at the same time, being, splitting that, the dad role to the racing coach kind of role. So
Yeah,
I couldn't think of anyone better to have though than your dad in your corner, because he really knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. Let's rewind back quite a few years now. People that are watching live now and are going to watch it afterwards, let me just play the situation out for you here. We're at uh, Petersburg, or Polokwane as it's
yeah,
known, Polokwane Goat Kart Circuit. I'm commentating Short Circuit Racing Series. Yeah, he has a young Ruche Moodley doing well. Yeah, he's looking good on it. I think it was a 65cc motard doing very well. Next minute, we get this Ruche Moodley come out of a right-hander, get a little bit of a speed wobble, and literally ride into a tree. The only tree within a 10, 20K radius. And
yeah,
Ruche Woodley rides into this tree. But people, let me just tell you the shock and horror. I've never in my life, in my 41 years of being on this planet and my 30 something years of being involved with motorcycle racing, I've never felt so much shock in my life, because Ruche squared this tree. Him and his bike got wedged in this tree, and Ruche was this, like just pinned to this tree. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, drop mic, everyone in shock and horror. Riche thankfully, recovered from it. But I mean, tell us the injuries that you suffered from that, and the recovery period, and how long you were in hospital. Just give us a sense of that.
yeah. So I don't remember much of the actual crash. I just remember waking up in hospital with a broken femur and hip and a fractured skull that I was quite badly concussed. So yeah, it was quite difficult and was the first bone that I broke. And I was still quite young. I think I was 11. But yeah, I never stopped wanting to race, even though I had that bad injury, and luckily I recovered quite well from it.
I must be honest. I was very surprised, because obviously you took quite a little bit of time off. I was very surprised when I heard that Riche Moodley's coming back and he's looking at going overseas. And I was like, but how is this possible? This kid literally married a tree, and now he wants to go overseas and race and make this all work. How was that recovery? I mean, what was involved with the recovery? Physio, yeah, mentally, for an 11-year-old. I suppose it's a bit easier when you're 11 years old compared to when you're older, but that couldn't have been easy. That could not have been easy.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing that was the problem was bending my knee again, because after so many keeping it still for so long, my knee almost got like locked. So the physio had to keep bending it until it could bend. Like even 90 degrees was difficult back then, but eventually, like every day, a little bit more and a little bit more until it gets back to normal. So it's just to keep to keep working on it, and eventually it comes right.
And you say that the motivation to, to keep racing got you through. You're lying in the hospital bed after this accident where, and I know from a racer, you have a big crash and you want to get on the bike immediately, even though the thing has just tried to kill you. You want to get back on it. It's the strangest feeling ever. It's like, being in love and being married, even though you headbutt and you hate each other, but half the time you can't get in. It's a love-hate relationship type thing. But how do you lie there after that accident, and how do you tell your mind to say, right, it was an accident, let's put it behind me, let's bend my knee again, let's get running again, and I'm going to go ride bikes again?
Yeah, so I think the first question I asked my dad in the hospital, it was if I won the race or not, because I couldn't remember. To me, that was more important than anything.
And that kind of mindset, I suppose, translates now to racing. And let's fast forward to current times. This year, Red Bull rookies, it was a big learning curve for you because you found yourself closer to the front in qualifying races. What kind of mindset shift did you have to get yourself there? Is it a case of you've got to find a bit more arrogance? You've got to, as you said, you've got to separate that balance between friends and enemies. Friends off track and enemies on track. What changed this year, or was it just the fact that you were more comfortable with the tracks that you were riding, with the bikes? How did you? What was the biggest factor that made the progression this year for you?
So I've been training a lot in a school where we practice. All we do for like 2 hours, we just practice passing each other and we bumping each other, and having race simulations. So that's what you're used to, and when it comes into the race, it feels so normal. So when you in a group with 20 people and you like knocking their elbows, it feels like it's just normal. That's the biggest difference. Training at that level every week and until it becomes a normality is the big difference.
So, what do you think is missing from South African motorsport? To put more of us. We know the financial implications. We know that, but in terms of training and the competition on track and the atmosphere, what's missing from South Africa, you think? Is it just the competitive nature? Is it just that Europeans see it a lot more as a viable kind of career path and there's a lot more pressure? South Africa certainly has a bit more of a fun factor. From what I pick up with the European stuff, it's fun, but we're here to do business.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more races in Europe, a lot more competitors that are interested in racing, and obviously, the problem with the financial in South Africa is not as good as Europe. That's the sad part. Like, there's probably a lot of talented South Africans that just don't get the opportunity to get to realize their potential. But yeah, I learned a lot when I was racing here in South Africa in the junior motards, and yeah, I think it's a good championship.
Yeah, we do. It's a great championship. We've got so many talented young riders, and it's frustrating for someone like me to see so many talented riders and kind of have to be honest and know. When I get the phone call even today from parents saying, right, I think my kid's got what it takes to be the next Brad Binder. How do I do this? And you kind of go, oh God, okay, I got to have this honest conversation with this parent. And you got to say, right, have you got X amount of money to kind of just throw away? Have you got the sacrifice to literally relocate yourself? You cannot do it, as you said, you cannot do it basing yourself in South Africa. You can't do it. You've got to relocate. There's so many factors to it, and it's a hard conversation to have. And I think, obviously what Brad and Darren have done, what Dino Iozzo, Doran Loureiro, Sheridan Rice, Matthew Scholz, Cam Peterson. There's so many South African riders who have who have proven, uh, you know, that the exercise works, but there's this procedure to it that costs a lot of money, sacrifice time and everything. So it's a frustrating process for
Yeah.
someone like me who lives and breathes motorcycle racing, but also wants to see youngsters prevail, and knowing that there's that handbrake for them to be able to do it. So yeah, just even more of a cap off to you and your family for making it happen. Rudolf Podkita has a very good question here. Why is there a tree on an effing racetrack? So now,
Yeah.
Rudolph, I can honestly tell you, as I said when we were talking about it, it's the only tree, probably in the whole of Polokwane, and Roche managed to find it. So I agree, there shouldn't be a tree at a racetrack, and it's if anyone's ever been to Polokwane, you know what I'm talking about. It's literally, a little piece of tar with some squiggles and a little piece of open land. It's not the greatest, facility in the world, but anyway, we all grew up racing there. Myself and your dad used to race superbikes there. I don't know how we used to do that. Brian Ritchie's got a good comment here. Gustav Angier, I hope I said that right. Red Bull Rookies riding coach is very impressed with Richer. He has even been uh, impressing the commentators from Service TV, Christian Brugger and Alex Hoffman. So Richer, you definitely did, stamp your authority a little bit this year. You definitely did put your name in the mouths of more people in the paddock, swirling around. How has that helped you? Have you had more teams within the European Championship come and contact you? Has there been more buzz around Ruche Moodley in the Red Bull Rookies paddock?
Well, I think a lot of the team bosses are watching the Rebel Rookies Cup races because it's the highest level. Like besides Moto 3, the Junior GP and the Rebel Rookies is the highest level. Like Colin Vaya, I don't know if you know him. He was in Rookies last year. I was racing against him, and this year he's already a Moto 3 race winner. So all of the attention goes to the rookies, and it's like basically the spotlight for the junior talent.
So, but how hard is this now for you? We all know previous years in Red Bull Rookies, you had a season, 2 seasons, and if you are one of the top 10 guys, you had a real good chance at making it straight into Moto 3. Yes, a lot of guys bought rides, but a lot of top guys made their way in. Jorge Martin, Brad Binder, Darren Binder, Jabal Masia, Zarko, all these guys, they didn't have this handicap of this new age ruling.
Yeah.
How does this work for you now? You've been in Red Bull Rookies Cup for 2 years now. How much longer do you have to be there with this new regulation? How frustrating is that for you? That right, potentially not next year, maybe the year after, you're ready to go to Moto 3. Can you go to Moto 3? Are you going to be too big for Moto 3 by then with
Yeah.
the way you kids are growing these days? Tell us about that process.
So the age limit was lifted from 16 to 18 this year or the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an exception. If you are 17 and you win the Red Bull Rookies Cup, you can go straight, or the Junior GP, you can go straight to Moto 3. But the plan is for next year for me to do Junior GP, which is a year old Moto 3 bikes. It's a step up from the European Talent Cup. We basically run the same weekend program as the Moto 3, like with qualifying 1 and qualifying 2. And yeah, the bikes are the same, the tires are the same. So it's good for gaining experience. And I think if I'm competitive next year there and in the Rookies Cup, I have a good chance of being in Moto 3 in 2025.
Okay, so how old are you now then?
I turned 17 5 days ago.
Okay, so so Moto 3 in 2025 is a realistic option. Now, has that conversation started with some teams already in the MotoGP paddock, or is it a case of right, prove yourself in the European Championship, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, is it basically Spanish Moto 3?
No, so the European Talent Cup and the Junior GP is a different. We race on the same weekend and we're in the same paddock, but it's a different. They're two different classes. The Junior GP, well, the Junior World Championship. It's called the Junior World Championship. So there's people from all around the world, and the tracks are. Next year we're going to Misano, all the Spanish MotoGP tracks, and Portimao, and they haven't confirmed Estoril. So we do a lot of races around Europe, but yeah. a lot of riders from all over the world.
So is that basically alongside with Red Bull rookies? Is that the feeder class into Moto 3 World Championship?
Yeah. So the last, I say from this year, there's about 6 going, and last year there was about 10 that went up from those two championships. And most of the people that go to the Moto 3 do the rookies and the junior GP.
Okay, so you got the opportunity at the final round of this year's championship at Valencia to ride a Moto 3 bike in that championship. Unfortunately, bad weather, limited track time, blah 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 blah. How was that feeling? That was your first experience on a, as you said, it's a year-old Moto 3 bike, but I mean, it's a good reference to what's
Yeah.
lying ahead for you in Moto 3. How was it, even with a limited time? And that, how did you feel with a Moto 3 bike?
Yeah, so we would have had 5 practice sessions and 2 qualifying if the weather was good, but due to the extreme weather, they cancelled the 2 practice days, so I had 1 practice session and straight to qualifying. And considering the time, I didn't do too badly because I went to Q2, and my feeling with the bike was pretty good. It felt more similar to the Rookies Cup bike than the European Talent Cup bike, but there's quite a lot of differences, and there's a lot more you can do with the setup. Like the gearbox is completely different, the suspension is completely different. But I adapted quite well, and I think if I have more time with this bike, I can do quite well.
And what is the biggest difference between the Red Bull Rookies Cup bikes that you ride compared to Moto 3s? I mean, is it a a big leap, or it seems to be working because riders that come from Red Bull Rookies, seem to do very, very well in Moto 3 and then carrying on their careers. But what is the jump like from a Red Bull Rookies bike to a Moto 3 bike?
So the suspension in the Moto 3 bike is like last year's Moto 3 World Championship bike. So the suspension's a lot better. There's more travel. There's more setup changes you can do. The gear ratios, you can change all the gear ratios for different engine brake in every different individual gear. So there's a lot of setup things you can do to get it to like how you want it to be. And the tires, we use a softer compound in the Moto 3 compared to the Rookies Cup bike. And well, the frame, everything is quite different, but it's a KTM, so the geometry of the bike is quite similar.
Okay, nice. We've got a lot of comments down the side, Ruche, just um, tell what everyone just saying how proud they are of you and the family for doing what you're doing. What an amazing year you had. I think you really did make a nice big step this year. That's really got people talking, which is fantastic. Natalie Mayring says, yeah, I watched some of the races last year and this year when I could find it. Ruche looked a lot more at home than last year. And to hear the commentators talking about you on as a South African makes me so proud to be SA and forget the crap in SA for a while. And I think, that's always the biggest thing when we get South African sportsmen just doing well. And that's why I don't watch rugby. Passing a ball backwards to go forward makes no sense to me. Um, but I support the Springboks because of the message that they are. When I did live in South Africa, you did. When they won the World Cup, you forget about load shedding, you forget about crime, you forget about everything for a couple of months. And I hope you guys know that. I try and I think Brad and Darren know that by now because they get told it every single day on Facebook, and we've all told them, the difference that you guys make. And how have you coped with all the attention that's come this year? You've obviously got a lot more fans, a lot more followers, a lot more people commenting, wanting to talk to you, not only at the paddock, but on Facebook and all your social media channels. South Africa, you've certainly made a step up. You've made yourself more noticeable there. How are you dealing with all this more attention? Certainly, media-wise at the track, you're getting more microphones put in your face and that. Is it something that you're still getting used to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the comments on this live video, and yeah, the comments from all the South African fans. It's really nice to see because even if it's a difficult weekend or if I have just broke my ankle or I just got a podium, they're always messaging me or supporting me. So yeah, it's nice and gives me more motivation and good energy to continue. Yeah, with the media, there's a lot of interviews, especially in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. So I have to get used to it now.
Yeah, got to get used to it. Short circuit racing series. Are we going to see you back racing on one of our short circuit rounds for 2024. We would love to have you back. I don't think you have time to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have time, but it would
Aiden,
be.
it would be nice, obviously, but I know with the Binder boys and everything, and now when you come home, it's home time. I know you're still doing a little bit of bike training and that, but it is hard to find the time. Aiden Mizzen asks here, what is your feeling on the level of the riders of the Red Bull Rookies Cup? Do you feel you can outride and muscle your way past them? Looking so forward to following your career.
Yeah, so everyone's on a really high level, especially in the front group. So everyone's on the limit in the braking. Everyone's on the really close to the limit. So it is difficult to overtake, but it's not impossible. And you have to kind of force the overtake at, especially when the level's this close and the racing's this close. That makes the racing quite interesting. Yeah.
I mean, is it a case of you've got to flick a switch, and it almost looks like it because you are this. You're just like your dad in so many ways. I can't believe what a replica of your father you are. It really is. This nice, kind, gentle guy off the track. Hello, very respectful. Just a great person, a great kid, a great person. And as soon as that helmet goes on, it just seems to this the switch flicks and you turn into this beast mode. And your dad was like that, all friendly and nice, off track. We're gonna have a great race, Arushan. You're a great teammate. I love you, man. And then on the track, if there's a centimeter, he would throw that bike all kinds of sideways on the inside of me. And I'd think, but where's this nice guy gone that I was just talking to? But you
Yeah.
seem to have that same kind of mentality. Is that something you try and tell yourself that you work on? That's right. When that visor goes down, it's time to. I'm in race mode. If I see a gap, I'm going for it. We saw at Portimao, you qualified. It was your best qualifying. You were really in this race mode, but you maybe just overstepped that barrier a little bit much. How much of a learning curve was that for you to say, right, I've got to balance aggression with racecraft? There's so much emotion and strategy that goes into it all.
Yeah. Well, compared to last year, I worked a lot on my aggression. Like last year, that was one of my weak points, I'd say. And this year, I've improved it a lot. Like in the beginning of the year, maybe I made quite a big difference, and I maybe went into the race with too much aggression or too much. Like I was doing a little bit of stupid overtakes and stuff in the beginning of the race and messing it up rather than actually making progress. But I learned from that, and I learned to do it step by step, not to rush it, because there's a lot of laps. There's 14, 15, 16 laps in a race, and save it for the end.
Uh, Another big advantage you had, if we look at the career of certainly Brad, you can go as far back as Sheridan as well. A lot of those young South African riders went racing overseas by themselves and had to learn tracks by themselves, and had a little bit of input here and there from some South Africans that had been, and one or two mechanics were floating around the paddock and that, but they didn't really have that massive support. You've gone over there and you've got the Binder brothers, you've got Brad Binder in MotoGP, you've got Darren Binder, and what I've really enjoyed is, from my time going last year and this year, is that every time I'm at the track, especially with Darren last year in MotoGP, as soon as Red Bull and Brad, as soon as Red Bull Rookies Cup comes on, Brad and Darren make this point of, right, either if we've got time, we're going to sit and watch Ruche. I remember sitting in Darren's truck and, typical fanboy commentary, Ruche, why didn't you pass? Oh, you stupid, man. All that, like, we know everything type thing. But they always make a point of supporting. And every time after that was like, right, I've got 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Let's quickly go to the Red Bull Rookies tent, which is on the other side of the paddock. Let's quickly go there and see Ruche. I mean, that's got to be a huge asset to have, being able to have Brad and Darren in your corner, not only on MotoGP weekends, but also back in Spain, where you've done some training with them off, on the motard tracks and off track with cycling and stuff.
Yeah, they've been really supportive and very helpful in the last 2 years. Like every time, even in the first race, they made you feel like you belong in this paddock. They made you feel welcome. Like just to see most other South Africans is so nice, because that speak your own language, and they know where you're from. Yeah. So in the beginning of this year, I was stayed at their house in Andorra for about 2 or 3 days, and we were training some flat track and going skiing, and yeah, it was really fun.
And did Courtney cook you some nice food? There's no doubt Brad didn't cook you anything, didn't wash your clothes, didn't do the dishes. I mean,
Yeah.
it must have been nice having Courts there to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like once in a lifetime stuff. You think you're training with Alonso Lopez, top Moto2 guy. You've got Brad and Darren Binder, right there to be able to ask questions to. That's really got to be something that just instills confidence in you to say, right, let's push on. I'm going. I mean, we all know the target is MotoGP, but knowing that it's achievable, looking at a Brad Binder there on the podium, when you're standing at the bottom there, looking at Brad on the podium with that South African flag, that's got to be great motivation for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Brad is definitely one of my main heroes, Brad and Darren, just to see what they're doing. And, they've come from the Red Bull Rookies Cup as well. So it makes you feel like if they were here at one stage, you can get there too. And I remember in Le Mans this year, I was at the hospitality with him, and I had my track map, and he made time. Like, he just sat down and told me all the best, like the tips he knew about the track and all the different lines, because it was my first time there, and it ended up helping quite a bit.
And he didn't ask you for 1 cent. Like, you didn't have to pay him any money for that, huh? Yes, that's your dad probably had to pay him. That's why, you see. You just didn't see the transaction happen. Christopher van Wyk says, greetings from the Caribbean. On Wi-Fi cruise, Wi-Fi, so lots of pounds. Quick, how's it, champ? You did us all proud and looking forward to much more success in 24. Cheers, Uncle Rob. I mean, this is the kind of fans you have, Ruche. Cruising on Caribbean ships, spending lots of money on Wi-Fi to listen to you. This is you got to love it. Here's another
Thank you.
question. Here's another question from I don't know if you know this guy, Rudy Naidu. I don't know who this guy is. Must be a funny guy. Hi, Ruche. Always great watching you race. A question. How much of data analysis do you do with your team? And are you able to share data with your teammates to improve your riding? Yeah.
Yeah, so in the European Talent Cup, me and my teammates compare the data to each other to see the braking points and the acceleration points, so we can see exactly where each other's strong points are and weak points are, and we can work on work on our weak points and make them our strong points. Especially helps in like tracks when your teammate's faster than you can go back and see where you were missing out and what you need to do.
And how is that? In South Africa, short circuit racing, you're on your little 65, 85 CBR 150. I mean, other than tire pressure, there's not much you can do. You just got to, if the bike doesn't handle, your dad claps you across the helmet and says, well, just pull harder or try harder. There's not much you can do in terms of setup and data. We don't know what that means in South Africa when you're growing up because we're not exposed to it. Now you're thrown into this European series and Red Bull rookies, and you straight as you take your helmet off, you've got these technicians coming to you with a pen and paper saying, right, what's it doing? Tell me this. Come sit here and let's look at this Tetris lines on the computer. And I mean, how's all that to take in?
Yeah, so the first year it was quite confusing when you see all these lines, but eventually you get used to it and you get to understand like how much bars you brake with, like how much you open the throttle and where the point you open the throttle and the like how aggressively you open the throttle. You start to understand it and it becomes quite easy to read.
I think that's something that'll always just go straight over my mind. I'm not educated enough to understand that. Aiden's got a great message here for you, Ruche. So proud of you. You have all the criteria to be a MotoGP legend. Nice guy, friendly, serious, intelligent, and a powerful talent. I wish you all the best, young man. Oh, here we go. I missed it. All the best, young man. Make us proud, please. You belong where you are. Don't take cuck. Stamp your authority. Make them remember who you are. Team Ruche, hashtag you legend. Jeez.
Thank you.
Just like it, hey? You got a lot of fans out there, Ruche, and I think, as I said, you made a big step this year. We all know the sacrifice that you and the family have made to get there. I think that makes the story that much sweeter. To be honest, it's It's almost an underdog story. What what are the realistic targets now for 2024? I mean, what realistically within yourself? Obviously, you want to go win Red Bull Rookies by 100 points and then be in MotoGP by next year. But let's bring ourselves to the ground here and realistically, in your mind, what are you telling yourself you are going to do in 2024 in both championships?
Yeah, I think realistically I can be one of the front runners in the Rookies Cup and fight for the championship. And my goal is to be as competitive as possible in the junior GP, because next year is really important, because I think if I can do well next year, the top teams will be looking like they always are at Rookies Cup for the Moto3 in 2025.
Bradley Johnson's got a good message. He says there's something in your guy's water, and it is. I need to get me. In fact, I'm going to ask your dad to bottle some water and bring it to one of the races next year, so that when I come see you guys, I can maybe get some of that water, because whatever you guys are drinking down there, just you've got supreme talent coming out of PE, and it started with your dad, and it's continuing with you now. Another nice message here from I think he's frozen. We'll wait for him to reset himself. See, they got talent and they can ride fast, but they got cock internet. Are you there? There he is. Mariska Hutchinson. Well done, Arushan and the entire Moodley family for having such a fine young man represent our country. Ruche, thank you for being so interactive on Facebook. You always make a point to either reply or like comments. And I think that's going to be hard to continue, as you climb the ladder of success. But I think that's something you must always try and keep up as much as you possibly can, because I don't think a lot of athletes or top sportsmen understand the importance of that. Still to this day, when I get a Brad Binder liking my post or sending me a message or replying to a comment, I still get a fanboy kind of feeling, even though I've known this guy and I've grown up. You know what I mean? So if that's one thing that I can urge you to carry on doing is, and I know it must be hard, and I know you can't get to all of them, but certainly try to keep that up, because as Mariska says there's Mariska Hutchinson, a fan, and when you reply to her comment, it's just, you know what I mean? It opens up a new world for a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, PE always have a water shortage. I think it's in the wind there. Okay, so it's not in the water, it's in the wind. Ruche, it's been a great chat. Thank you so much for doing this. I think a lot of people, certainly myself, there was a little bit of information that I didn't quite know what was going on or what was happening. You've certainly enlightened me and all the people watching this and the people that are going to watch it after the show. And from myself, and I'm sure from everyone watching here, just good luck. Carry on doing what you're doing. I want to see more of those videos of you on an R6 around a goat kart track, going all kinds of sideways and sliding, like a proper Moodley does, like your dad used to do. I used to love the problem with racing against your dad was, as I said, he was very aggressive, but he was like poetry in motion. So when he passed you going sideways, instead of being angry, I'd be like, oh, look how cool this guy is. How cool this guy is. You know what I mean? So just carry on being cool. Carry on being the amazing kid that you are, and the amazing family that you are. And yeah, just the best of luck, man. And we'll definitely catch up with you next year again to see how the progress is going of your success. And enjoy your time in South Africa. Get some good rest, and just get yourself ready for 2024 and hit it as hard as you possibly can.
Thank you so much, Uncle Rob. I enjoyed being on the show a lot, and thanks to everyone that was watching.
Awesome, Ruche. Thank you. Have a great Merry Christmas to you and the family, and to everyone that tuned in. Thank you so much, and wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll get Brad and Darren on soon. They're enjoying their time in South Africa, getting married and all kinds of things. It's crazy. But hopefully, early in the new year, we'll have a chat to them. And of course, follow Ruche Moodley on Facebook, Instagram, everything, and follow his success. And really excited for the journey that's coming ahead for this young man. Ruche, thank you so much again. Thank you to everyone, and have a great night. Goodbye.